Hey, welcome everyone to today's workbook discussion on Zoom. Welcome also to all who do join us at a later time by watching the recording. You are also part of this family. My name is Maggie. I am a volunteer with the Foundation for Inner Peace. The Foundation is the publisher of the Scribe authorized version of A Course in Miracles. If you want to learn more about A Course in Miracles, please visit www.acim.org. If you feel inspired to make a love offering, please visit acim.org, and at the top of the page, you will find the word donate. All donations support the work of the Foundation for Inner Peace. Each session, we will be delving into a discussion of the workbook lessons in A Course in Miracles, led by a moderator team of volunteers for the Foundation. What does discussion mean? In our gatherings here, we welcome the Holy Spirit to join us. Through the Holy Spirit's presence, our meeting becomes a joining of equals, to commune with the Holy Spirit's guidance, to experience miracles together. Now, before we begin today's session, we will take a moment together to quiet and center our minds. So if you'd like, you can close your eyes right now. In order to bring us into the session today, I'm going to just read some selections from Chapter 28, Section 3, the agreement to join. The miracle alone is your concern at present. Here is where we must begin. And having started, will the way be made serene and simple in the rising up to waking and the ending of the dream. The end of dreaming is the end of fear, and love was never in the world of dreams. The miracle does nothing just because the minds are joined and cannot separate. Yet in the dreaming has this been reversed, and separate minds are seen as bodies, which are separated and which cannot join. The cause of pain is separation, not the body, which is only its effect. Yet separation is but empty space, enclosing nothing, doing nothing, and as unsubstantial as the empty place between the ripples that a ship has made in passing by, and covered just as fast as water rushes in to close the gap, and as the waves in joining cover it. Where is the gap between the waves when they have joined and covered up the space which seemed to keep them separate for a little while? Where are the grounds for sickness when the minds have joined to close the little gap between them, where the seeds of sickness seem to grow? God builds the bridge, but only in the space left clean and vacant by the miracle. Be not afraid, my child, but let your world be gently lit by miracles. And where the little gap was seen to stand between you and your brother, join him there. The dream of healing in forgiveness lies, and gently shows you that you never sinned. The door is open, that all those may come who could no longer starve and would enjoy the feast of plenty set before them here. For love has set its table in the space that seemed to keep your guests apart from you. You can take a moment there, take another couple breaths if you'd like. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and rejoin this space where we will join together and let love set that table. And today, for our discussion, we are picking up where we left off last week. And so we are at the top of lesson 69 today. In our typical fashion, I'm going to have a couple volunteers read the full lesson in its entirety first. We'll alternate paragraphs. And then once we've gotten all the way through, we'll go back up to the top so that we can dive in a little bit more detail. Are there a couple people who would like to do the reading today? Okay, Keith and Sharon. Keith, you are paragraph 1. Sharon, paragraph 2 and onwards. I will share screen and you can get going.
Lesson 69, my grievances hide the light of the world in me. No one can look upon what your grievances conceal. Because your grievances are hiding the light of the world in you, everyone stands in darkness and you beside him. But as the veil of your grievances is lifted, you are released with him. Share your salvation now with him who stood beside you when you were in hell. He is your brother in the light of the world that saves you both.
Today, let us make another real attempt to reach the light in you. Before we undertake this in our more extended practice period, let us devote several minutes to thinking about what we are trying to do. We are literally attempting to get in touch with the salvation of the world. We are trying to see past the veil of darkness that keeps it concealed. We are trying to let the veil be lifted and to see the tears of God's Son disappear in the sunlight.
Let us begin our longer practice period today with a full realization that this is so, and with real determination to reach what is dearer to us than all else. Salvation is our only need. There is no other purpose here and no other function to fulfill. Learning salvation is our only goal. Let us end the ancient search today by finding the light in us and holding it up for everyone who searches with us to look upon and rejoice.
Very quietly now, with your eyes closed, try to let go of all the content that generally occupies your consciousness. Think of your mind as a vast circle, surrounded by a layer of heavy, dark clouds. You can see only the clouds because you seem to be standing outside the circle and quite apart from it.
From where you stand, you can see no reason to believe there is brilliant light hidden by the clouds. The clouds seem to be the only reality. They seem to be all there is to see. Therefore, you do not attempt to go through them and past them, which is the only way in which you would be really convinced of their lack of substance. We will make this attempt today.
After you have thought about the importance of what you are trying to do for yourself and for the world, try to settle down in perfect stillness, remembering only how much you want to reach the light in you today, now. Determined to go past the clouds, reach out and touch them in your mind. Brush them aside with your hand. Feel them resting on your cheeks and forehead and eyelids as you go through them. Go on. Clouds cannot stop you.
If you are doing the exercises properly, you will begin to feel a sense of being lifted up and carried ahead. Your little effort and small determination call on the power of the universe to help you, and God Himself will raise you from darkness into light. You are in accord with His will. You cannot fail because your will is His.
Have confidence in your Father today and be certain that He has heard you and answered you. You may not recognize His answer yet, but you can indeed be sure that it is given you and you will yet receive it. Try as you attempt to go through the clouds to the light to hold this confidence in your mind. Try to remember that you are at last joining your will to God's. Try to keep the thought clearly in mind that what you undertake with God must succeed. Then let the power of God work in you and through you, that His will and yours be done.
In the shorter practice periods, which you will want to do as often as possible in the view of the importance of today's idea to you and your happiness, remind yourself that your grievances are hiding the light of the world from your awareness. Remind yourself also that you are not searching for it alone, and that you do know where to look for it. Say then, my grievances hide the light of the world in me. I cannot see what I have hidden, yet I want to let it be revealed to me for my salvation and the salvation of the world. Also be sure to tell yourself, if I hold this grievance, the light of the world will be hidden from me. If you are tempted to hold anything against anyone today.
Beautiful. Thank you both for your willingness to read. And I'm just bringing us back up to the top now, where we can start to just talk about this paragraph by paragraph. I really love this one, like such a little like guided visualization here in this lesson. And so I'm just going to read paragraph 1 just quickly, just to refresh us, and then we can see if there's any thoughts, questions, or anything people would like to discuss. So no one can look upon what your grievances conceal, because your grievances are hiding the light of the world in you. Everyone stands in darkness, and you beside him. But as the veil of your grievances is lifted, you are released with him. Share your salvation now with him who stood beside you when you were in hell. He is your brother and the light of the world that saves you both. Okay, so we can see each other again. Anyone have any thoughts or anything they'd like to share about the lesson as a whole, since we did read it as a whole just now, or about anything from paragraph 1? Yes, Derek.
I just wanted to say that just in general, when I would get to this lesson, I've tried the lessons on 4 different occasions across 20 years. And I've tried many times each time, because there's a number of lessons that do it. I've tried to go towards those clouds. I'm not too good at visualizing things. I don't see things vividly at all. And I believe that this is possible, but I just wanted to share to the group my experience that I have not had a sense of being able to go through clouds and connect with what's on the other side per se. And that really frustrated me and then depressed me for a long time. And now I'm just sort of like, it is what it is, and I'll have that experience if and when I do or not. So I'm just much more lighthearted about it now. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Derek. It's something that I'm sure others could relate to. I love to hear you being more lighthearted about it. That's really nice. I can say too that my experience is similar in the sense that I don't tend to be very visual in my mind. Even when being guided through a visualization, it tends to be something I have more of a feel for, a sense for, more than I'm actually seeing it. But yeah, maybe if some folks do actually see, they can share as well. I see Megan, though, has her hand raised. So why don't you go ahead, Megan?
I'm with you guys. I don't actually see clouds or anything, but I do experience a veil, like a thin layer. So I actually do experience emotionally that I can see something, if there's something there. So the veil seems to me as a clear representative, not that I see a veil, just that I can intuit, I can feel something beyond it. And I just thought it was interesting that you read my grievances hide the light of the world in me. And I was realizing that it can be taken both ways. They hide, my grievances are hidden in me, and the light of the world is hidden in me. Everything is hidden in me as long as I don't know what I'm saying now. Oh, I can't see what I have hidden. Yet I want to let it be revealed to me for my salvation. Anyway, it's interesting that people can see the light in us sometimes. That's what the Course is telling us, is we may hold grievances, and so the world can't, or is not, the light of the world is not, the light is not apparent from us, from our perspective, from us to others. But I do believe that others can see the light of the world in us because they have allowed it to drop in them. And the Course keeps reminding us that when we let our grievances drop, we see the light of the world in others.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Megan. There's a couple things you said there that really kind of struck me. First, I think you were saying, right, that we can have the light of the world hidden in us via our grievances being held, but also that we could be hiding our grievances. I think I heard you making that point, and it felt to me like a callback to conversations we've recently had with some folks have shared, that it feels like their ego's doing like a "you have no grievances" thing. So yeah, we can have the sense of the grievances we're hiding them from ourselves so we don't have to look at it. But through doing that, we are hiding the light of the world. And yeah, your statement about others seeing it in us and us seeing it in them, seeing it in ourselves, I think my experience with that is that that's what forgiveness does for us. That's the miracle, is when I forgive, I see the light in the world of my brother, but I naturally then see it in myself as well, because there's this acknowledgement of the oneness. And so I thought that made a lot of sense, what you were saying there. Thank you for sharing. Yes, Andrew, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I just have a comment on that visualization practice. I do see clouds when I try this, and they're not gray clouds. They're either green or blue. They're a colored cloud, but and I go through them, but I never reach the light. It's just a continuous drifting through the clouds.
Mm.
Also, another quick comment. This shows that we have to go with a brother. We're not saved alone. We're all saved together. That's all. Thank you.
Yes, Andrew, thank you. Very, very important and so appreciated. Both that you provide us with an example of someone who does see things when they visualize in that way, see things with the mind's eye. It's just nice to have the different ways of practicing represented, but then also your, reinforcement that we don't do this alone. We're healed together. So I really think that that's appropriate to say right now. And now I see Ardith, you're up next, and then we'll go to Bill right after that.
Yeah, well, this is very, very brief. After this first paragraph, I just honed in on the grievance is hiding the light of the world in you. But as the veil of your grievances is lifted, you are released with him. I have a feeling, and not only a feeling, I'm absolutely sure within myself that our main grievance is with ourselves. And unless and until we accept that love that we are in our hearts, our grievances remain, and that's what we project out. And so I'm getting more in the habit of looking within whenever I have a tendency to think there's a grievance I have against someone, which is not often, but it happens. And when I do that, I've inevitably found that I have a grievance against myself. And then I have to explore that, but not actively going back over old territory, which is absolutely useless, but turning it over to the Holy Spirit for examination. And it helps tremendously, because when I see what the real difficulty is within myself and begin there and realize that my biggest lesson is self-love, those grievances do start to release within me, and then consequently, I'm finding myself less and less finding reason for grievances with those others, in quotes. But thank you.
Thank you, Ardith. It's another beautiful point. And, I think it says in the Course that all forgiveness is self-forgiveness, right? So you make a very relevant point to the practice, that ultimately, when you pull back that projection, right, it's always a grievance with the self. So yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Bill, you can go ahead.
Bless my ACIM soul family. Maggie, thank you. So happy that we're running this lesson today. True. I wanted to just say that, because it's what I love about the fact, or my journey in the ACIM is, which has been very steady since 2018. I wasn't guided to do the lessons. So I'm doing the lessons with you people, with this ACIM soul family for the first time. So I would Andrew has tried this before. I see he's been through the lessons. I've never tried this thing, to go through the clouds to get to the other side. I didn't ever think of that until this lesson for me. And I see Andrew's kind of like frustration and giving up. Well, if I don't get to see it, I don't get to see it. And that's true 100%. but it has to do with all the people that we're affiliated with. It rarely will take one and show them the other side, because when they come down, they have a raised awareness, and if the rest of the group that's with them, it sometimes sets an upset and might kind of like flip the group, and you don't like, it won't do that. But yeah, we will all get there as we help each other get there, and then one will get there and see it and feel it and come back, and the ones that are not so far behind will have felt what that person felt. I can feel this working, and I'm just so happy to try this lesson with us for this time, man. I like it.
Oh, Bill, thank you. That was so lovely. Yeah, such a joy to hear your gratitude and your like willingness and a little excitement, I feel like.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I share that with you definitely. I see other people gave you some hearts and a lot of smiles. So I think the sentiment is definitely shared.
Awesome.
Beautiful. And now, Susan, you're next.
Yes, thank you, Bill. I wanted to follow on Ardith's comment, if I could. And I wrote something down because I didn't know how long I'd have to wait. And I was sure that it wouldn't stay. So I'm going to refer to my notes. But so what I wrote, what came to me is any complaint or discomfort or grievance, if you will, is a reflection of our own discomfort of what is. We are not in acceptance of what is, whatever it may be in the moment, right? Because everything just is. It's our our judgments on what is that cause the discomfort. It's just, red is red. There's nothing uncomfortable about red. But if you have a judgment about red, then it can be unpleasant for you, right? So I'm just agreeing with Ardith, but also kind of really drilling in on the importance to fully see it with real eyes, that there is nothing outside us to be uncomfortable about, right? Everything just is. Love is all love or light. That's all that is. And there are no judgments within that realm of reality. So when we fight against the reality of all that is, which is love, we feel discomfort. And I'm just trying to further elucidate how I view that separation has screwed with our heads. So we think it's something that we're uncomfortable about outside us, but it's really not. It's our own refusal to fully accept and with open, kind heart embrace what is. And that's sometimes hard to do in the world of form, because the world of form is full of distracting illusions with lots of bells and whistles and things happening that can cause our awareness to be shrunken down into that little focal point. So we miss the bigger picture that all is love.
Susan, beautifully said. Beautifully said. I love what you are sharing there. I felt myself get distracted with the screen sharing that occurred for a moment there, but I was like hanging with you, really trying to listen to you still, because I really appreciated what you were saying. And yeah, while you were saying that it's really always a grievance is just a failure to accept what is. All I could keep thinking is, in reality, right, we're told it's just God is, and then we stop speaking, right? Just God is, right? So it's our failure to accept that God is, and that's it. And yeah, I think that's beautiful what you've said. The trick is that we have projected out at this point, and now we think we're having problems with what's on the screen. But yeah, if we pull it back, like Ardith was saying, it all comes back to the self, and you just really helped to illustrate that further. So thank you. And Megan, go ahead.
I gotta thank you all, Ardith and Susan and Maggie. I mean, it crystallizes some things that have been going on, which is I've been not working. I've been trying to not work at allowing myself to be where I am. And I guess that's the God position, is just saying God is, and so am I. And if I'm with God, then I'm right where I should be. But I was doing just deep breathing and being okay with where I was, and it was helping me calm down. And then I realized I had ordered some ice packs just online, and I realized like you can get, you can be very focused in being, and then have your focus pulled away momentarily. But I realized that these ice packs they're the wrong ones, and so I got very upset for like a hot minute. And then I thought, oh my goodness, this upsetness is pulling my whole thing off. But now I forget what Susan said and what Artist said and what you said about, but what I was realizing was that I had the means, and I keep forgetting all the time to ask God for help, because God says, if you just ask and be open a little bit, then I will bring you the rest of the way. And so I let all of it go. And just to round it out, the people with the ice packs, I emailed them when I calmed down. I just thought, I'll just let it go to Spirit. And so they're refunding my money, and they're not even asking me to return the things. So I thought, isn't that lovely? Nice little, but then I did a step further, and I thought, this is so wonderful. I'm going to give money away to a charity that, not the whole amount, but the money to a charity that I would like to give to, that would have gone to those ice packs, because now I have the ice packs and I don't have to pay for them. But I thought how wonderful the whole thing kind of culminated. But I did have to keep asking God for help. And I'm glad that you guys have said all this. I think that's what it got to, which was like being reminded, stop trying to do it alone. You can't do it alone. Doing it alone is foolish. And when you try to do it alone, you are trying. It is trying. You're trying. And I'm like, I decided to stop trying so hard and just keep following. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yes, very beautiful. Great example of how, right, you said yourself, we could so quickly, you had that hot minute, so quickly get pulled into something. Yeah, and I love your acknowledgement that what would be helpful for any of us, you're speaking for yourself, but for any of us would be to remember to ask for help. Stop trying to go at it alone. And that acknowledgement then that is ultimately what does shift something, right? Because it's not really about the ice packs. It's not really about any of that. But when we just let that be the way that the grievance comes into our awareness, and we ask for help with that, right, we're going to hit the main thing. We're going to be helped with the one grievance. So beautiful. Sharon, go ahead.
I get unmuted here. The thing that I have to keep reminding myself of, because I keep forgetting it, is that I don't know anything about anything. I can think I do, but boy, I don't, because I'm looking with, human eyes. And it's important to me to remember that I don't know anything, especially someone else's path. If I see someone going down doing, it's like, oh, get the judgment out of your mind, because you don't know anything about that person or what they should be doing. And they may need to be making these horrible mistakes for a big setup later on, and that's really helped me so much. Really. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. I feel like you are like a reminder of that. While you were talking just now, I felt like, oh, Sharon comes in and reminds us of this often, and it's a really helpful reminder. So I'm grateful for you. Yes, Derek.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback off of what Megan said, and then what Sharon just said, and sort of bring attention to a place in my life that just happened a few nights ago, where the judgment was not apparent to me until I got it. I had a problem with my computer. And since I've been a computer technician type person for 40 years, Derek, the ego goes, oh, this isn't working. I know how to fix this. I'm the most qualified person to fix this. And so I dove in and started doing everything I do. I try this, I try that, and I try that. And I noticed I was tense. And I noticed that it was sort of like, oh my goodness, I need to fix this problem. and I'm the guy to do it tension. And when I realized that, I was able to let go, and I walked away from the computer, and I thought, oh my goodness, even though I'm really good at this, I'm resisting reality. I'm trying to fix a problem. I'm not even checking in with spirit at all. And I'm like, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want Derek to fix the problems. I want to forgive the problems. And then if spirit guides me to do something that looks like, fixing it or not, I just want to be neutral about that. And so instead of pounding away on the computer for an hour, which I typically would have done, and I would have solved the problem, Derek would have, but it would have been a fight. I kind of let it go, and spirit gave me little ideas over the next 3 or 4 days. I did a little of this. I emailed somebody, and it just gracefully resolved itself in the most beautiful way. And it took about 4 days, and I was not tense the entire time. And it felt like such a better way to live. So that was a subtle way that it caught me just the other day.
I love that example. Thank you for sharing that with us. It was like such a good example. Would you rather be right or happy? Right? That's what I was hearing while I was listening to you. It's like, you're like, I don't want to live like this anymore. I'd rather be happy. Let me perform my function.
Exactly. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. And go ahead, Megan.
I just wanted to respond to Derek, which was in what he was saying, I realized that that Derek that has to do it, that I'm going to fix this. I also realized for myself, when I do the Megan has to do this, I forget that Megan has lots of subsidiaries of people that I can call on, and they are just as much willing to help me fix things. So I think that's the ability to allow God to delegate for me. Which I'm not willing. I'm like, I have to do it myself because it's my problem. And I'm thinking, no, if this is a problem, God will fix it. And God will help me find it. And then it's okay to, call out for help and then let God help delegate for me. So thanks so much, Derek.
Love it.
I like that too. Delegating's hard for a lot of people. So yeah, hand that over. All right. Well, it feels like we've possibly come to the end of the communication about that first paragraph there. So unless someone else has something they'd like to share, I'm going to go ahead, share screen again, and we'll read paragraph 2. I'll just refresh our memory about it and see if anyone would like to say anything about that. Okay. So today, let us make another real attempt to reach the light in you. Before we undertake this in our more extended practice period, let us devote several minutes to thinking about what we are trying to do. We are literally attempting to get in touch with the salvation of the world. We are trying to see past the veil of darkness that keeps it concealed. We are trying to let the veil be lifted and to see the tears of God's Son disappear in the sunlight. I'll stop share just so I can see you all and see if anyone has their hand raised. But any thoughts or anything people would like to share about this? Yes, Derek.
I was just noticing it says, make yet another real attempt. And I just thought of what a beautiful metaphor that Edison tried to make the light bulb work over 1,000 times before he was successful. And I thought, okay, let me just joyously, put effort into this, but from a relaxed place. 1,000 times, 10,000 times, I don't know, doesn't matter. It just sort of freed me up that, he did it, he eventually got there. So I'm just going to keep leaning into that and be a happy learner as opposed to a frustrated, I got to get it this time learner. So
I love that. I love that because too, that first sentence says, let's make another real attempt to reach the light. Right? So he had to make many attempts to get that light. Oh, that's really cool. Thank you for sharing that with us. And the loosening up of, I liked that and what I was hearing you say. Just I'm going to joyously just keep going at it and not worry about how long it seems to be taking, how many attempts I seem to be making. Right? It doesn't matter. What's that beautiful sentence? Not a single note of Heaven's song was missed, or something like that, right? So we can, seem to take all the time it seems to take. It's okay. Go ahead, Andrew.
Thank you. I can't see the light. I don't have spiritual vision yet, but I sure feel the love, and I just link the two and think they mean the same thing. That's all. Thank you.
I think that's fair, Andrew, and thank you for saying it. Lots of hearts for that one. Any other thoughts or anything folks would like to share about paragraph 2? I love the sentence, we are literally attempting to get in touch with the salvation of the world. It's like, let us not forget the significance of what we are doing here. It's just such a striking sentence to me. Oh yeah, go ahead, Megan.
I just had this memory of researching this person who designed a church, and it's sort of like designing the what is it? Well, anyway, the church is, the person who designed it is dead, and he realized it was never going to be built in his lifetime. But what an act of faith, which is, I'm going to design this in miniature and then study it, then I'm going to pass it on, because it's not necessarily my job to finish it, it's my job to envision it. And I thought, in the same vein, that it's what Derek was saying, is that try that or that what is it, one more practical was that we're trying yet one more time authentically. And I thought it's so nice to eventually stop trying and realize that any action we take forwards that is viewed as I'm sorry, I'm losing the words. All those actions that we make forwards, people will pick up and carry forwards for us if we allow them to be. I guess what I'm trying.
I hear like this acknowledgement that we do as much as we can do, right? But we're doing it together, and so we can. We're kind of walking each other home. I hear a lot of folks say, and I don't know that that's in the course specifically in those words, but I always love that sentiment. And I think, again, I just felt you acknowledging a way to kind of not be trying, like not have the grip on things. Even as we know there are still things for us to do here, we don't have to do it with that kind of charge or that kind of energy. Oh, Rich, would you like to share?
All right, so I'm looking at the lesson 69, first couple paragraphs, especially paragraph 2, but I just want to share what I want to share is for one thing, the definition of grievance that I see, an imagined wrong, that's cause for complaint, or a feeling of resentment over something believed to be wrong or unfair. So again, it would be an ego, in my understanding of ACIM, it would be an ego thing that I want, but like the want for it is living in the ego, living in that which is not truly correct. It's just something that I feel. So what I want to say is, for example, very specific example about the lesson, relationships. Like I should be in a relationship, and this is important. I'm missing something by not being in a relationship with whomever, right? I'm missing something. I'm being deprived, things of this nature. And we know ACIM says plenty of times, we are not, you're deprived of nothing. I'm pretty sure that's an exact sentence in the book. And just the whole idea of you're deprived of nothing. So whatever is true for you in terms of God's will and such, live that, and just understand that I am deprived of nothing. So if I feel like I'm deprived because I want this particular relationship, and if that's not the direction I'm supposed to go in, then that's not the direction I'm supposed to go in. And I shouldn't have that imagined grievance.
Yeah, and just felt to say right at the end there, or that you don't hold it, right? As it comes up, it's like, oh, okay, here we go. There's a grievance, not accepting things as they are. But then, yeah, you don't have to hold that. You can hand that over there. And I think that was a great example of a grievance that I think probably a lot of people could relate to as well. And thank you for coming in just with some thoughts too about like what is a grievance, defining grievance for us. It's very helpful and appropriate with what we're discussing too. Any other thoughts, shares, or should we go to paragraph 3? All right, let's do it. I see nods. Paragraph 3. So let us begin our longer practice period today with the full realization that this is so. This is so. What are we realizing is so? I think I want to remember that this is so. We're literally attempting to get in touch with the salvation of the world. Okay, so let us begin the practice period with the full realization that this is so, and with real determination to reach what is dearer to us than all else. Salvation is our only need. There is no other purpose here and no other function to fulfill. Learning salvation is our only goal. Let us end the ancient search today by finding the light in us and holding it up for everyone who searches with us to look upon and rejoice. And that made me think of what Megan was saying about how others can see it in us. Right? That last sentence there. So we can hold it up for everyone who searches with us to look upon and rejoice. And we can all do that for and with each other. Any thoughts or anything anyone would like to share? Yeah, go ahead, Megan.
Just reading it at the very end, it says, who searches this with us to look upon and rejoice. And I realized that it keeps saying that God equal happiness, God equal love, God equal joy. And I thought, isn't it interesting that when we're talking about salvation, we also end up in joy and in love. And so I just thought that was a nice way of, at the end of it, that salvation is our only need. And while we're here on this earth, we can be joyous and be saved and be, projecting joy and salvation on this earth while we see what we see. I'll stop. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for jumping in and sharing. I think I hear what you're saying there. And yeah, what you were reminding me of, because we have this sentence here. Let me share that again real quick. We have this sentence here right after what you said, salvation's our only need, but there's no other purpose here, no other function to fulfill. And what have we been told about our function? Well, that it's forgiveness, but that also it is our happiness. So yeah, like you said yourself, we're going to end up in joy as we do this. That's what we've been promised. And Rich, please go ahead.
Okay. Just that I like the last sentence there, you know, holding it up for everyone who searches with us to look upon and rejoice. So, you know, over and over again throughout this book, it's always about being one with your brother, working with your brother, et cetera, with your brother. Everything is about being with others. Also, salvation to me, yeah, I mean, this topic is in the book a lot. And the way I basically feel about it, again, I use the dictionary. So for me, salvation, deliverance from ego in the sense of no guilt, shame, remorse, anxiety, doubt, fear, loneliness, worry, concerns, the merest frown, the slightest care, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, pretty much every negative emotion possible is listed somewhere in the book, and we should have none of those. So deliverance from any negative confusion. I mean, any negative emotion whatsoever should not be, we should not have those in our mind. So, and that would lead to that holy, joyous, conflict-free way of being that ACIM talks about.
Thank you, Rich. There's a lot of mention of emotions, and I think the emotions are oftentimes what we are kind of guided to practice with. And so I think your statement about that is really appropriate and helpful. And yeah, I just keep feeling inclined to just say not that we shouldn't have them, not that we shouldn't find them in there, right? But that we don't hold them and that we don't cherish them and that we don't become confused and think it's what we are and just roll around in the mud with it. Right. So I think the finding of and I'm a therapist by trade. So, right, like I personally like the negative emotions is like not how I talk about things, but basically any emotional state outside of peace and joy, we have been told is not our reality, right? It has to be territory of the ego. And so it definitely is like a neon arrow pointing at where to practice, I think, when we're feeling any emotional state that does not feel peaceful. So very helpful. Thank you for that. Any other thoughts right now? We've got enough time, I think, to read another one if there's none. So I'm going to share screen. We're going to paragraph 4. It says, very quietly now, with your eyes closed, try to let go of all the content that generally occupies your consciousness. Think of your mind as a vast circle, surrounded by a layer of heavy, dark clouds. You can see only the clouds because you seem to be standing outside the circle and quite apart from it. We'll stop there and see if there's anything anyone would like to say about that. This is where we have the visualization really being suggested to us at this point. I'm thinking of Andrew saying, because it says a layer of heavy dark clouds, and I just remember Andrew sees different colors even for the clouds. I just thought that was kind of interesting to share, and I guess interesting to someone like myself who doesn't really see the clouds when I do it. I have more of a sense of clouds, but I just imagine we can play with this. We can play around with this if you are someone that's actually visualizing. So we've got some hands now. So go ahead, Legion.
Well, for me, this paragraph means basically reflecting to whatever arises the nature that it's coming from, that it's appearing right now from freedom out of nothing, so that into that nothingness it can return. So from this, from knowing myself, I can be this reflection to what appears better and better. So the deeper I go, the freer I feel. So and it doesn't matter if it's a cloud, if it's a devil, or even if it's Jesus, you can remain that reflection to whatever that vision, appearance, projection is. So.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that about your experience too, and also that suggestion that it doesn't have to be clouds, and you could play with different things there, right? Because it is just a symbol, and I think that's a really great point. I'm moving a little quick too, just because I want to see if we can get everybody in before we close up with a prayer here. So go ahead, Megan.
Mine was a question because I got a little lost when I was trying to imagine. Think of your mind as a vast circle surrounded by a layer of thick clouds. Okay, mind, just pretend my head is my mind and vast circle. But then it says you can only see the clouds because you seem to be standing outside the circle and quite apart from it. So basically it's saying that I'm out here looking at the clouds, not part of my mind. So that made no sense to me. Could anybody illuminate for me?
Well, the thing that just come into my mind right now, Megan, and I'm not sure if it's speaking to exactly what you were saying there, but is that we are having an experience of looking at ourselves, even through looking at our brothers, like we were talking about looking at things on the screen, and we seem to be outside looking at something that really is within the mind. So I don't know if that speaks to your question. How does that feel?
I can hang with it. I don't need a true answer, but it was confusing because I thought I was going, I'm gonna really try to do this. And then I thought, okay, I'm confused. So I think I'll just let it lay. Thank you so much, Jackie.
You're welcome. And I love you're just going to, you know what, it's okay to let it go too when things confuse us. I do that all the time. If there's certain sentences or suggestions that just don't speak to me or they don't make sense to me in that moment, just let it go. It's okay. Work with what does make sense to you. And sometimes those things that didn't make sense at one point, you later find yourself coming back to, and then they do make sense in a different way. I've had that experience too. But yeah, that's okay. Just play with the clouds in whatever way makes sense to you, I think. And Rich, go ahead. I don't know if you wanted to respond to Megan or if you had a different thing to say.
Well, what I'm saying probably would speak something about what Megan was saying, but okay, I mean, humans, right? We go from teens, 20s, 30s. We have ego. We build up ego things in terms of that which is ego stuff, stuff that brings guilt. So for me, once the brain is fully developed and things like that, then we can start to deal with these ideas in ACIM. And so, the mind, so the God mind, the vast circle, surrounded by a layer of heavy dark clouds, the ego mind, everything that the ego mind is. I mean, I know the book, talks about we're already perfect. We already are the full revelation of the God mind. At the same time, we've got this little problem called the ego thing that's a temporary problem. And, we just have to allow those blocks, flow awareness to go. So that would be the heavy dark clouds. So like we feel like we're standing outside of the God mind, the circle, lost in this ego mind of guilt, et cetera, et cetera. But, in real truth, we can get past or, whatever. All of the ego mind can go away and we can be nothing but in the Jesus-like God mind of perfect joy, peace of God and things of that nature.
Thank you, Rich. I think that was great. And so I don't know how that felt for Megan too, but I could hear you giving further, better, perhaps clarification of what I was kind of feeling and wanting to say there too. So I really appreciate that. And it is just about time. We're coming up to the top of the hour here. So we're going to leave our discussion there for now. Next week, we'll be picking up with paragraph number 5. And if you'd like, if you have a moment still to stay for the closing prayer, you can go ahead and make yourself comfortable right now. Close your eyes if you like. And I am going to read some selections from chapter 28, section 4. This is the greater joining. The Holy Spirit's function is to take the broken picture of the Son of God and put the pieces into place again. This holy picture, healed entirely, does he hold out to every separate piece that thinks it is a picture in itself. To each, he offers his identity, which the whole picture represents, instead of just a little broken bit that he insisted was himself. And when he sees this picture, he will recognize himself. I thank you, Father, knowing you will come to close each little gap that lies between the broken pieces of your Holy Son. Your holiness, complete and perfect, lies in every one of them. And they are joined because what is in one is in them all. How holy is the smallest grain of sand when it is recognized as being part of the completed picture of God's Son. The forms the broken pieces seem to take mean nothing, for the whole is in each one, and every aspect of the Son of God is just the same as every other part. Amen.